Hello everyone, JoshMC2000 here, and today I've got a video for you all on Hellblazer Rise and Fall issue number 3. Today we are going to be talking about the final issue in Tom Taylor's work on Hellblazer, and oh man, I wish DC give him another, seriously. Like, I'd be happy for them to resurrect Hellblazer with Tom Taylor writing under the Black Label banner, because this was really good actually. And honestly, if you've not read a Hellblazer comic before, I'd say this is an awesome jumping in point, because you can just, you know, if you don't really, it explains all the stuff you need to know for the issue to be understood. You don't need to have read all 25 volumes of the original Hellblazer to understand it, because I know for a fact I haven't, because I'm on the second volume. Yeah, it's going to be a very long years of, like, honestly, I want to read all the original Hellblazer and it's going to take me a very long time. Like, yeah, they're binding them all eventually. I mean, they're still releasing trades for it, for God's sake. Volume 25 is out in like May, I think, this year. It's bonkers, honestly. I mean, don't get me wrong, like, I like Constantine, so I'm glad there's a massive wealth of stories out there for people to find and read about him, because I think he's a really good character. And like, but at the same time, if you set yourself the objective of reading all of it, it's going to be a very long time. Honestly, I was thinking about getting my hands on Justice League Dark and that after I read the original Hellblazer, but I think I might do that first because it's going to take a long time. Anyway, Hellblazer Rise and Fall. Let's get into this. It's written by Tom Taylor, and once again, I mean, do I have to say anything? Like, everything from Deceased Dead Planet, Deceased Unkillables, and this, everything he's done has been really good, and I love his work, especially with Constantine. I think he really shines when given Constantine to focus in on and use as a character. Deceased Dead Planet focused on Constantine a fair bit, and I think that's kind of Tom playing to his strengths. Because this book, with just Constantine on his own, kind of like, you know, it's really good, and it taps into some stuff from the old Hellblazer and does some really interesting things with it. I'm going to talk spoilers in a bit, but John gets a weight lifted from his shoulders, and it was really good to see, because it was really, like, it's something that's been with the character for a long time, and it was nice to see him get that lifted off him. And also, Lucifer Morningstar has been in this for issue 2 and 3, and, well, mostly issue 2 and 3. He was in issue 1 a little bit, but he's been really good in it. He was like a wingman almost to Constantine, and they actually got on really well. I really like this comic. And honestly, it's made me interested in Lucifer as well now, which is something, honestly, it's the one Vertigo property I've kind of not looked at. Been looking into Sandman lately a lot, and Hellblazer as well. This is like, you know, honestly, a Vertigo, I've got a long list of stuff to get through. But honestly, if you want a starting point to get into the world of Vertigo and all that goodness, that imprint goodness, you want to pick up Hellblazer Rise and Fall. I've gushed over this book enough now. Let's get into the actual details and the plot and the parts I liked about it. So, we're talking spoilers now, so if you've not read it, go away and read it. If you've read it, let's discuss. Feel free to put down in the comments as well. I will happily discuss with you people about Hellblazer Rise and Fall. This is a really good book. Spoilers. Right, let's get into it. They do something really interesting with John and his father, which, for those of you that have never read Hellblazer, which, if you're listening to this, why are you listening to this? Because you've not read it yet, go read it. But they do a really interesting thing with John and his father, where John's father is a character that's been quite nasty. He's always been depicted in a way where he doesn't particularly treat John very well. and they've always kind of had very strained relationship. And basically, in this issue, he, in order to stop the demon, which is possessed Billy, he needs to go and get the original spell that was used to summon the demon in the first place. And he goes and he gets it, but it's at his dad's house, and they have an interesting exchange where basically he apologizes for the stuff he's done. He says he was wrong to do so, and funnily enough, the goddamn devil is the person who actually gets this exchange to happen. John's about to walk out, get in the car and leave, but Morningstar's a bit like, hey, tell him what you just told me. And I find it kind of funny because he's obviously got his own agenda, because he wants this demon rid of, because this demon is trying to dethrone him. But it's also kind of nice to see him accidentally do some good almost, which is kind of you know, I really like the way Vertigo handles like the kind of like their version of the religious side of stuff, like the way they handle like angels and demons and stuff. It's actually really interesting. And yeah, so like, you know, and John then uses that to use the spell and defeat the demon, because basically Morningstar says to him, hey look, you know, this thing feeds off despair. If you go and try and fight it with a lifetime of despair weighing you down, you're gonna lose. Which is putting it mildly. And basically, very much John Constantine, he uses kind of his magic, and we actually learn a little bit more about the magic he uses. He kind of explains the magic I've always used is called sympathetic magic. It runs off your emotions, and like emotions that are built into places. So what does he do? He goes and parks himself slap bang in between Anfield and the Liverpool and the other stadium, you know, the Reds and the Blues. Like true Liverpudlian, kind of like, you know, what Constantine would do. And he kind of uses the joy from both of those and like the joys of his own memories of watching games at Anfield. I assume that is the correct one for Liverpool, otherwise I'm going to be in a lot of trouble with my older brother. He's a Liverpool fan. And if I've got that wrong, not good. All joking aside, but yeah, so basically he uses that to defeat him, and then basically the demon's scheme was he'd destroy businesses, take their money, basically wreck people's lives, and then feed off the despair, making himself stronger, and the human partner he had would have all the money. And basically after the demon's been dealt with, John is like, hey, let's spread this out amongst people that are in poverty and people that are struggling on the breadline. Like, you know, so they do that because at this time he's kind of hopped up on the joy and everything that is just used from this magic, so he's not as cynical as he normally is. And like he even says later on in the book, hey, you might want to take this demon back and get rid of him because my cynicism's starting to come back now. This stuff's wearing off. Which very much Constantine. Honestly, I know it's probably not going to happen, but I'd love to see Matt Ryan do an adaptation of this, like this particular storyline, with the guy from Lucifer as well. That would just be brilliant. Like, it's probably not going to happen. Little bit of wish fulfillment if it would happen, but this is actually a really good story. I'd love to see this get adapted. And I think it's one of the Constantine stories that would work better on screen, you know. It's like with the Constantine TV show, some of the stories were changed to make Constantine look in a bit of a better light, but I think this is one where you could do that without having to alter anything. And honestly guys, I really enjoy this book. It's really good. I'd highly recommend you pick it up. Hope you guys have enjoyed the video, and I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.